right. This is, actually, an entomologist response to Mister Mosquito. My name is Angela Smith. Who am I and why am I talking about this? So I got my bachelor's in biology at the University of Holy Cross. I was pre-med, went to medical school. That was awful. I do not recommend it. I left with a lot of student loan debt. So I ended up getting a master's of public health and tropical medicine at the Celia Scott Weatherhead School of Public Health at Tulane University, because more words means more impressive. I worked as the skeet team lead at Tyson Research Center. I've also been a health inspector for the state of Louisiana. Currently, I am serving out a fellowship with the Association of Public Health Laboratories. My host laboratory is the St. Tammany Parish Mosquito Abatement District. And I am also currently a visiting researcher at the Wesson Mosquito Ecology Lab at Tulane. I also did research there while I was getting my master's degree. And that is me after 5 hours in 100-degree heat with a piece of duct tape covered in ticks. If I could zoom in, you could see just every life stage of tick, not the eggs, I guess, just 3 of the 4 life stages of tick on that little piece of tape that I then wore on myself for the rest of the day until I was able to put them in the freezer. You can see how happy I look at my job. All right. So what is this game? I'm sure many of us have never heard of. So Mister Mosquito is a PlayStation 2 game. It was developed by Zoom in Japan. It was Ka Yamada Ke no Natsu, or Mosquito, the Summer at Yamada Residence. It's what it was initially developed under, its working title. It was released by Sony in Japan in 2001. It was the 5th best-selling game released that week, so I think it sold like 100,000 copies or something like that. It got an international release, oddly enough, through Fresh Games. They are a company that like to go and just find unusual games and release them to an international market. It was released in March of 2002. There are several sources that name it one of the weirdest games ever released, and that's pretty much its legacy. There was a re-release for PS4 in September of 2024, and in Japan it got a sequel, Ka 2, Let's Go Hawaii. I did not review that game for this talk, so there's always next year. So before we get started, what is a mosquito? So they are under the kingdom Animalia, so are we, so is your puppy. Phylum Arthropoda, so that will also include say a wasp, a butterfly, a shrimp. Those are all arthropods. Class Insecta, I think we're all pretty familiar with insects. Order Diptera, that's the true flies. Family Culicidae is overall all of your mosquitoes. So what aspects make something a mosquito? They are multicellular and eukaryotic. Those are under the animal umbrella. They have bilateral symmetry, so do we. We're so similar. They are segmented. They have 1 pair of wings, so other insects will actually have 2 pairs of wings. Their second pair of wing is altered and reduced into a haltere, just kind of like a little semi-wing that helps them kind of orient themselves in space. They have 3 pairs of legs, and importantly, they have a proboscis. So that is an elongated sucking structure they use to eat nectar, and some females will use to suck blood. So here we can see our mosquito. We have our 3 segments, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Our paired legs, 6 of them. Wings, right there. These are the haltere right there. Our beautiful proboscis. Lovely, that's a mosquito, 100%, no complaints. They have a 4-stage life cycle. So they have the egg. The adult sucks some blood, lays an egg. The egg hatches when it comes into contact with water. It's a little bit different. Some of them, the eggs are laid as an egg raft that will float on the water until they're ready to hatch. Some species will lay eggs above the water line, and then the next time it rains, it will hydrate those eggs, and then they hatch. The larva gathers, it eats, it develops, it has 4 little larval stages, and then it becomes a pupa, and then it ecloses or emerges as an adult. And the cycle of life starts all over again. So these are mosquitoes. That's a male mosquito right there. That's a female Eurytania sapphirina feeding on a leech. That's a mosquito. It's a fancy dress mosquito. That's a Cerophora. I don't know exactly what species that is. I tried to find out, but it's not one I come across. But it's definitely a Cerophora. Those little pantaloons will let you know. That's an Aedes albopictus. Those are the mosquitoes that I deal with on the regular. And mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on Earth ever. They cause about 700 million infections annually and 750,000 to 1 million deaths every single year. You can see our little fact sheet there. That's the low end. Could be a little bit higher than that. You can see snakes cause 50,000 deaths a year. That is a dog? I don't think cats cause 25,000 deaths a year. But between dog attacks and things like rabies, dogs cause 25,000 deaths a year. And our little shark there is 10. So those mosquitoes, they are winning by a lot. By some estimates, up to 50 billion people over the history of all existence have died based on mosquito-borne disease. That's probably too many. That's like all of the people. A more conservative estimate would probably put it at about 1 to 2 billion, so still a lot. And we can see some of our various mosquito-borne diseases here. We have our chikungunyas, our yellow fever, plasmodium, that is malaria. That's our biggest heavy hitter right there. That's going to kill the most people. In the US, our most common mosquito-borne disease is West Nile virus, which first came over in the 90s. And now is quite an issue. Things like dengue, Zika, we don't have as much here for now. So mosquitoes are a big deal, and let's put some respect on their name. This is not a mosquito. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, we've got a proboscis, great start. The wings glow, that's not a thing. Let's look for our body segments. We have a head, sure, great, there's one. A thorax, I guess, and then a tail? Mosquitoes don't have tails, they have abdomens. And then you'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4. We're missing some legs. So I'm personally offended. Along with the fact that this is called Mister Mosquito. Do male mosquitoes suck blood? No, they don't. Only females suck blood because they need those nutrients to provide for their eggs. Males drink nectar. They're actually a pollinator. So male mosquitoes, yay! We like them. All right. So this game is nuts. I just wanted to give you a little bit of the intro for it.
Welcome to the home of the Yamada family. It's summer. Do you like summer? Summer drives people crazy, and that makes them commit terrible acts. Take the tiny, harmless mosquito, for example. It doesn't have enough time to do much during its one precious short life. Yet with one swipe, a human can snatch such a priceless life away without a second's thought. I am sure that you may already realize that you are a mosquito, the insect that bites people and makes them feel itchy, the insect that creates a trail of swollen bites. As a mosquito, there is something that you naturally have to do. You have to suck blood. You must suck and store away as much human blood as possible in order to survive the winter and see another spring. However, blood sucking is accompanied with much danger. It may come as a surprise to you, but you're not welcome in the Yamada family home. Why on earth not? Because you make people feel itchy. Bear in mind that they will go to great lengths to protect themselves from you. Nevertheless, please enjoy your summer of blood-sucking.
All right, so in that intro, we had a lot of information. We got some things that are true and some things that are false. First of all, mosquitoes are not harmless. We just covered that. They actually kill a lot of people every year. False, they have no time to do much. Again, they murder. They murder so much. The statement that they have to suck blood and that the purpose of sucking blood is to survive the winter. Females do have to suck blood. Okay, so here's the thing. Historically, it was considered that females had to suck blood in order to lay eggs that would hatch. When I was at Tyson Research Center, I had a group of mosquitoes, and they had never sucked blood because we were keeping them for non-reproductive purposes. And I went to murder them all at the end of the summer. And I put them in the freezer, and I took them out of the freezer, and I assumed that they were all dead. And the adults were indeed all dead. But then I happened to look in the water. So when you hatch the eggs, you put them in some water, and then we don't generally take the water out because it's inconvenient. The more times you put your hand in there, the more likely they are to bite you. So we didn't want to feed them. We never fed them. We just left the water in there. After they had been in the freezer overnight, I pulled them out, and then I went to go throw away the water, which you do because never pour it down the drain. If you've got water that's full of mosquito larvae, they will actually develop in your drain and then fly out of your drain. Throw them out into like a sunny piece of pavement. It'll dry them out. It's great. Except I happened to glance down before throwing out my water, and there were larvae in it. Mosquitoes that had never fed, and I was like, I have made a discovery. I am publishing this. And then I looked it up, and it turns out Aedes albopictus mosquitoes have been known to reproduce on only sugar water in multiple places. So unfortunately, there goes my publication. But generally, females suck blood. They do it for the eggs. There have been a few instances of male mosquitoes attempting to suck blood, but their proboscis just isn't strong enough. Like, they can penetrate the skin a little bit, but they can't get to blood. They will actually blood feed if you're using some sort of artificial feeder that has an incredibly thin meniscus for them to bite through. So that's fun. But again, they're not really doing anything with that, and in an actual real-world scenario, they cannot bite you functionally. And then finally, the purpose of blood sucking is to survive the winter. So if this is the beginning of summer, these mosquitoes are not going to survive the winter. Mosquito lifespan is up to about 90 days, and that's under pretty perfect conditions. There are some, hibernation is not the word, but mosquitoes will diapause, and usually it's not the adults that do that, the eggs will do that. So like my mosquitoes, my Aedes albopictus, they ended up being a little more cold adaptive than we wanted them to be because they started going into diapause. So when the days get shorter, that sends a signal, and the adults will lay eggs with extra protein that are meant to survive the winter. So those eggs won't hatch for a certain amount of time until the light conditions are right, and therefore the temperature is right. So do mosquitoes hibernate? Kind of. But they don't, it's not like a bear. They're not feeding to survive the winter. All right, but there were surprisingly a few things that were indeed true in that intro. First of all, always use pesticides according to label instructions. That is so important. And I believe they put that up because in this game they actually incorrectly use a lot of their pesticides. So maybe they're just trying to be responsible. They mentioned that they're tiny. Yeah, they're pretty small. Sure. Active in summer. Most mosquito species are indeed most active in the summer. A little bit different when you get as far down as we are in New Orleans. They're actually, in the middle of summer, it's so hot that it's actually a low season, so spring and fall are our biggest seasons for mosquitoes. But in a more temperate region, yeah, most active in summer. Short lifespan, like I said, 3 months is pretty much the max. They're indeed highly slappable. Definitely going to agree there. And they say that mosquito bites are itchy. No arguments. So we've got some good facts. We've got some good facts along with some of the horrible ones. All right. Moving on to our first level.
I'm so tired.
So here's a little of the gameplay.
Okay.
We need to suck 2 tanks of Raina's blood. Apparently my mosquitoes have tanks. I didn't know. Look, it's a tank.
I've had it.
So we've been spotted. It says attack all of the relax points.
Who do you think you are?
Where do we think that relax point is going to be? Japanese.
Oh well.
Okay, there's another thing. That mosquito just turned on the stereo.
Why? Why?
And we are going in for the suck. The noise it makes. Also, you'll notice the thorax is getting bigger as it sucks blood. Which, I mean, it doesn't have an abdomen, so what's going to put it in its tail?
How was it the first time? I hope you enjoyed your first blood suck. What?
All right, that was something, huh? Okay, well, we're gonna get to that in 1 second. I will say I really wanted to test the relax point thing. Unfortunately, I could not figure out how to do. Clearly, it's fake. Clearly, a mosquito is not about to run into my crotchage region and make me feel totally fine about the fact that it's feeding on me. I thought about trying to load mosquitoes into a little blow dart and just shoot them at people. I couldn't figure out how to make it happen, and I'm really sorry. I wanted to do that one. But something I am able to do. Can mosquitoes trigger switches? So as we all know, force equals mass times acceleration. I was able to, my dear partner was able to find this set of tactile switches for me that had listed their actuation force. So they have multiple options, the lowest being 160 grams force. The force equation, that's going to give me my force in newtons. So we do have to do our grams force times our constant there. So it comes out to be about 1.569 newtons of force that we need in order to turn on a switch. Now this particular switch, when I just tried to Google how much force does it take to trip a switch, I got every answer. Because switches can be a lot of things. But I needed one specific data point, so I picked this one. This is fairly low compared to what I was seeing, so I figured that this was a pretty good one to go with. So then I also need the amount of force that can be generated by a mosquito. So I need the mass and acceleration of a mosquito. I found one paper that measured the acceleration of a mosquito. This was specifically Anopheles colusi mosquitoes. They're a malaria vector. And this was specifically in their swarming behavior. So they had their acceleration as 7.33 meters per second squared. I wasn't able to find an exact weight on Anopheles colusi mosquitoes, but they're a pretty average size mosquito. Average mosquito is generally accepted to be about 2.5 milligrams. Unfortunately, this force equation requires that I am using kilograms. So we adjust for that, and we end up with 1.8 times 10 to the negative 5, which is a lot less than 1.5. So we're calling it mosquitoes cannot trip a switch. But then you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Anopheles colusi mosquitoes are an average-sized mosquito. What about a much bigger mosquito? So this is the biggest mosquito I have in my collection. You can see it. This is an average-sized mosquito. That's I think that's Culex. This is a Cerophora ciliata. It also has little fancy pants on it. If I zoomed in a little bit more, you'd be able to see it a little bit better. But they're small. They're not as dramatic as those other fancy pants mosquitoes. So this mosquito weighed in at 3 milligrams, so a whole half a milligram more. This one has been sitting around for a while. If it was a recent catch, it would be more hydrated. It would be a little bit heavier, but it would still maybe be 3.5 or 4. But again, this isn't the biggest mosquito that exists. So what about the biggest mosquito that exists? Well, when you search for the world's biggest mosquito, you get this article out of Hong Kong, but you'll notice this is not a mosquito. There's no proboscis. That is a crane fly. So we are, that one, it's disqualified, not a mosquito. So then this over here, we see a proboscis. This is a mosquito, and it's pretty big compared to my Aedes anopheles over here. So this is a toxobronchites. And they are really big, and they have this lovely, giant, hooked proboscis. That would hurt a lot to get bitten by, right? Yeah. They don't bite. They do not suck blood. Both the males and the females of this species actually only consume nectar, and they're able to do that because the larvae of the species get a lot more protein in their diet, and they do that by attacking other mosquito larvae. This mosquito is a hero. So we love toxobronchites mosquitoes very much. They're our very favorite, but unfortunately it is also disqualified. And again, you'll notice we were just like multiple factors off. So is there a mosquito that would be big enough, or is there any insect that would be big enough? So doing a little math, we find that our necessary mass is 217 grams, and that's assuming that something that big could even accelerate as quickly, which it likely would not be able to. Because 7.33 meters per second squared, an F1 car maxes out at like 11. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So 117 grams is roughly the size of a 2-week-old kitten. Adorable, yes. So looking at the biggest insects that I could find, we've got the Goliath beetle. That's 60 grams. So even if it could fly and fly with that level of acceleration, wouldn't be enough to do it. Slightly larger than that is the giant uwite. From New Zealand. I've never seen one. Apparently it's adorable eating that carrot. But I'm going to call it, there are no mosquitoes that would be able to trip that switch because even our largest bugs are significantly too small. So we're calling this one, it's busted.
She's going to kill me for this, but giant snail?
Not an insect. I do not know the weight of a giant snail off the top of my head. Yes?
Shouldn't you be using momentum instead of force? Because an object with no acceleration can still trip a switch.
Okay, I'm not a physicist, I'm an entomologist. If you would like to come up with some calculations for me before the end of this presentation, I would love to hear them. Okay. That's a really good point. I'm so sorry when someone out-sciences me, but unfortunately, it's just not my field. I'll give you my boss's number, and he can fire me when I get back. All right, so for the following experiments, I need to introduce my lab assistants. When I initially proposed doing this, I was planning on using my actual lab assistants at my job. And then we had a very rough month, and we didn't end up having time to do this, so I did this over break in my home. And you'll notice the only other people besides me that show up in these videos are my cats, who could not keep away from the little buzzy sounds that were happening inside of my little mosquito cage. So the orange guy, that's Burr. The Void, my little baby, is Ruckus. They have been very instrumental in these experiments. And then my other assistants are my colony of mosquitoes that are there in that box. Don't get too attached. So, another one of our questions, can mosquitoes avoid bug spray?
This is Rena's room. Rena is the daughter of the Yamada family. She went on a school trip today, and she sprayed herself with bug repellent. But that was some time ago, so it's likely to be wearing off in some places. You should suck from those spots. Good luck in finding them.
So I think that they just included that to try to make the gameplay a little more interesting. In subsequent versions of this game, you can suck from anywhere where you can see skin, but in this particular version, you have to hit specific spots. So you hone in on them, you hit them, and you suck from them. But good to know, if you put on bug spray, how long is it going to last? So this is my hand inside all of my mosquitoes. We can see before the application, put my hand in and I got 21 mosquitoes. That was after a 5-second count. Mosquitoes love me, and they had no other food source other than sugar water. So I sprayed on some mosquito repellent, and 1 minute post-spray, I had 0 mosquitoes on my hand. You can see it looks like some of these are on me, but they're actually just kind of flying in the adjacent area. Good photography without getting the camera inside where all those mosquitoes would then be flying out around the edges of my camera. Hard to do, so we do what we can. So I waited 1 hour, and I assumed, okay, it said she put it on in the morning, and now it's the evening, so we're just going to retest every hour until it stops working. This is 1 hour. So you can see one landing up here. They tended to land in the areas between my fingers where they were rubbing against each other. So given that I already had plenty of mosquitoes feeding off of me after 1 hour, I discontinued the experiment. We're going to call that one true. That one works. Yeah, that one was not fun. I always try not to let mosquitoes feed on me, but sometimes it just happens. My next experiment, can mosquitoes hunt in steam? Because if the first level wasn't explicit enough for you.
What's that? Oh well.
I cut it off because I really don't like the sound it makes when it feeds. It's really horrifying. I also wanted to be like, hey, do mosquitoes make a sound when they feed? Except I did a project when I was at Tyson that was trying to record the wing beats of mosquitoes, and trying to get an audible sound from something that small is murder, so I opted not to do that one. I'm just going to say they don't make that sound. I'm going to guess. So we can see there a mosquito is very small. That added density to the air from all of that steam might theoretically make it much more difficult for them to fly. So let's test it out. So this is my bathtub. Ran the hot water until it was steaming. And you can see this is my hand pressed up against the side. And I was hoping that that steam would slow them down. But you can see that they're finding me pretty easily. I push them off, more of them keep coming back. So I'm going to say this one also true. Steam is not a detractor. I'm not quite sure this was quite as thick as the steam that we are seeing in the actual video game. But I think they can do it. They're talented.
What is that cage like for?
That's a butterfly cage. So the other cage that I was using is an actual bug dorm that's made for long-term keeping of mosquito colonies. But I was planning on poisoning these mosquitoes in some of my experiments, so I didn't want to get any poison on the one that I had to return to my job. We're going to see how that goes later. And then in some of the levels, they have mosquito coils. And
is preparing dinner in the kitchen. All of the family have been bitten by you now, so she has lit a mosquito coil. Do not go too close to the fumes from the mosquito coil.
That's strange.
What is?
sorry, this is my excellent video editing skills with those guys. Mosquito coil over here. All right. Mostly that clip I just included because Japan, that was fun. So I got my hands on some mosquito coils. They look similar to the ones in the game, same color, but unfortunately we have this little precautionary statement, warning for outdoor use only. Great, I'll wait until morning and then I'll do it because it's dark outside. Oh wait, no, I have to leave to come here the next day because these mosquito coils got delayed in shipping by over a week. Don't be like me. Don't burn mosquito coils inside. But don't worry, I had my lab assistants open the window. So, will mosquito coils kill mosquitoes? We got it. Right? That was me checking the packaging, being like, should I not burn this inside? Too late. I wasn't going to let them loose. So it says all over the mosquito coils that it is a repellent. And I have used all sorts of repellents, and mosquitoes will bite me right through them. You burn a citronella candle, they will, pass right around that and bite me. So I did not have a lot of hope that this was actually going to kill the mosquitoes.
Okay, I'm actually really surprised by this. We have a lot of struggling mosquitoes in there.
Zooming in did not work. So yeah, that's a lot of knockdown mosquitoes. I really thought they would just be agitated and then they would just fly away from where the smoke coil was.
I expected them to be agitated, flying around. But they are indeed all falling down under that smoke. Huh. I was doing fine.
I considered that they might just be sleeping. And that's where things went terribly wrong.
So, all those mosquitoes were knocked down. But I wasn't sure whether, they were actually dead or if it was just temporary. So I stashed those mosquitoes right up there
It's the only place that my
to
cats
see
can't get
if
to,
they
by
were
the way.
going to make a comeback. So it's been a couple hours. And a little hard to see. But other than a little twitching here and there, they're all dead. Fun, interesting results, right? Oh, one keeps going a little bit. So, I also checked my other mosquitoes over here. Need both hands for this one. And these mosquitoes that were not directly exposed, they were just sitting next to a cage. The vast majority of these mosquitoes are also knocked down. So I had more experiments to do. But I guess not anymore. Happy MAGFest.
I had 7 survivors. And they were still alive when I left for MAGFest. I did not provide for their care, so we'll see if they're still alive when I get back. But yeah, so I had a few more things that I was going to do. If you're interested in them, we can try again next year, I guess. Sorry?
I said you have the next game.
I do still have Let's Go Hawaii. Oops. Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure whether I burned the mosquito coil inside and the fumes were so strong that they killed the mosquitoes that were in like all the way across the room, or if it was that there were still fumes coming off of the cage that I had directly over the fumes. Further research is needed. But I did leave my bedroom window, because all of these experiments were done in my bedroom. My apartment is small. I did leave my bedroom open for the next 4 days. In January. Yeah. So don't do that. Definitely. And then also, if anyone has any tips on how to get pesticide out of a borrowed mosquito cage that I need to keep living mosquitoes in the future, I'll take that. But thank you very much, MAGFest 2026. We're finishing a little early, but it is nearly midnight. So I am pretty offline, but if you want to contact me, aanewton13@gmail.com. I have an Instagram with exactly one picture on it, and you've already seen it. It's that Petri dish full of too many Marscooties. Or you could follow my organization, the St. Tammany Parish Mosquito Abatement District at STPMAD. The fun fact about following them is that our local parish, which is a county, except Louisiana style, is trying to shut us down. Because we cost too much, because we actually do research and they don't want us to do research. They just want us to spray poison at mosquitoes. Fun fact about mosquitoes, they have a very short generation time, faster than that with some of our pesticides. They don't respond to pesticides. And so some people just want to keep spraying the same thing anyway because it looks like you're doing something. So we are currently safe-ish. They tried to get rid of our board and take all of our tax money and give it to the DA. We think that we're going to survive with significant parings down to our budget. But if you ever want to help us in that fight, if they flare up and try to take us down again, go ahead and follow us on Instagram because we are not cool enough to have a TikTok. We're working on it. We're working on it. All right, any questions? Yeah. Well. So poison, I guess. It didn't come with one of the like. So I'm used to using commercial pesticides, which have a materials data sheet on them. Usually the active ingredient will be posted on the back, but I didn't see it on this. This might have been like, I don't know, illegally imported or something. I don't know. It did take a really long time to show up. So I cannot tell you exactly what was in it, but I could probably look it up. Yeah, that would make sense. You're going to use those against any insect. You can also use them against ticks. They're great. But again, usually with a repellent, it's just something like, citronella that is not quite so murdery. Any other questions? Yeah?
I know you work specifically with mosquitoes, but how entomologically accurate do you feel pollinate is?
Do I feel what is?
Pollinate.
Okay, so here's the thing about me. I'm not a real gamer. I've never actually played Mister Mosquito. I watched my partner play Mister Mosquito, and I've watched some online run-throughs. I have no hand-eye coordination. I am terrible at every game ever. The talk that I did right before this was on Oregon Trail, which is the only game simple enough that I've been able to play it. So I'm really unfamiliar with games. But if you want to know, I can look it up and come back next year with a whole new. In the back?
I studied zoology and I've beaten Hollow Knight and Silk Song and it's not.
Thank you. Yeah?
Less of a question and more of a statement. The mom lit that mosquito coil right next to the food that she was preparing.
Yeah, so there are some things definitely that are horrible to breathe that you can eat and it's kind of fine. But I would not recommend doing that. That is not me advocating for eating things that will kill you if you breathe them. Yes? Oh yeah, it does also say harmful if swallowed. Sorry, someone, I forget. Yeah?
You mentioned earlier that there was tests you wouldn't run because they died. What were they?
Well, again, I was trying to come up with another way that I could do the relax point thing. Again, that I didn't have many hopes for that. I had a whole list of various things I wanted to try, but I don't have it in front of me. And when I give a presentation, my brain becomes completely empty of all of the things except what is actively written in front of me. Yes?
How often do you have mosquitoes in your home for doing stuff at home, or is it usually stuff in the lab?
This was a very special occasion. I would never normally bring mosquitoes into my home. They're in my home anyway because, again, I live in New Orleans and I rent, so there are many holes around all of my doors. So they just come into your house. There's actually a mosquito, Culex quinquefasciatus, known as the southern house mosquito, just because they're very well adapted to living right next to us. Normally I would have done this in the lab. I didn't have the time. And again, that was mostly related to us being actively attacked for the 8 months prior to my coming here. Yeah?
Have you had to get any atypical vaccines as part of your research work?
I haven't. So we don't do any disease research. We do testing for diseases. So we do in-house testing for things like West Nile, but we only do it on wild-caught mosquitoes. So we go out, we catch our mosquitoes, we see if they're carrying any diseases so that we know where to target our spraying and all of that. But since we don't experimentally infect anything, we don't have anything that isn't just ambiently occurring in our area, we don't have any extra special precautions, anything like that. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that in the game, the characters use pesticides in like an unsafe way.
Mm-hmm.
Could you elaborate on that?
So lighting the mosquito coils inside, and like was mentioned, lighting them next to the food. They also use spray pesticide, where they're just like spraying, like just trying to like track down the mosquito and hitting it with a spray. That was another test that I was going to do, although spray insecticides have a high oil content, and if you put enough oil on anything, it's not going to be able to survive. And then in a later level, they actually have multiple mosquito coils in multiple rooms to the point where the smoke fills the entire house, like visibly full of smoke. So definitely don't do that. Mm-hmm.
You said you've tried lots of different repellents. Do you have recommendations for just like day-to-day, what works best for a normal person?
Wearing very thick, long clothing.
Really hot out.
Well, it usually is. I went camping in like October and it got down to 48 and I was dying because I spent the entire summer in like 110 heat index out in the woods hunting for ticks, dripping sweat, getting bit by horseflies. It was horrible. So I don't wear thick enough clothes. I get bit by mosquitoes constantly. My favorite of the easy to get insecticides is the sensitive skin one in the purple container. For some reason, I find that one works better than the other ones, and it's not as oily, and then it doesn't rub off quite as easily either. But your results may vary. Everyone's individual skin and scent is a little bit different, so it might take something different to cover up your mosquito deliciousness. Yeah?
How do you test mosquitoes for what
PCR. So we do triplex PCR testing for Eastern equine encephalitis, West Nile virus, and St. Louis encephalitis. Sorry? Yeah, so we put them in a bead mill. So we'll put our mosquitoes in like a little tube. We'll pop in a metal ball bearing, and then we put them in a machine that just like and it just obliterates them into like a liquid, and then we do a DNA extraction from that, throw it in the PCR machine with our primers. This was a big year for West Nile. We had a lot of positives, and we actually had 9 West Nile encephalitis cases, so it was pretty dangerous. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One more serious one and one kind of fun one. But for anyone who's interested in working in the field of entomology, I'm wondering what the normal process is like to get into that, or what you might recommend for someone who's interested, and also just what's your favorite book.
Okay, there are many paths of entry to entomology. Mine was through public health. And when I started my master's degree, I didn't want to do mosquitoes because they're awful and I hate them. I wanted to do like hantavirus and rodent-borne diseases. But I started my master's degree in 2019, and something kind of public health important happened in spring of 2020, which was both a very interesting time to be in public health school, but also made it very difficult to get any actual experience because everything shut down. So the very first opportunity that I got for hands-on experience was with the mosquito lab. And I just got sucked in and I never left. But there are a lot of different ways. If you aren't necessarily wanting to start with school, it's if you have a local mosquito abatement district, which you can look up. You can start as like a spray truck driver, and then you don't need any experience, you don't need anything more than just a high school diploma, and you can start, being around people, start learning the business so far as mosquito control, and then you can use that to kind of decide how you want to attack it and pivot into it. Awesome, thank you. Other than that, you can go in as an ecologist, you can go in as an entomologist, you can go in, just lots of different ways. I would say one thing, forensic entomology is really cool. I didn't do it because I didn't want to be the cops, but it is so fun. Looking at things like, okay, and it's not all bodies and stuff, so there are a lot of cases of like illegal dumping, where you can figure out, okay, when was this dumped by looking at like, okay, what stage are the fly larvae, stuff like that. So forensic entomology is just like really, really cool, and there are several programs for that at both an undergrad and master's level. So just figure out what interests you, if you're interested in the diseases or if you're interested in the bugs themselves or the interaction. I think ecology is the coolest. In my heart, I'm a disease ecologist. I'm not a real entomologist. Mm-hmm. Oh, my favorite bug. The one eating a carrot. It wasn't until I saw it eating a carrot. That was adorable. My favorite mosquitoes are the toxobronchides, but my second favorite mosquitoes are Serophora ferox because they're shiny and purple and they have little socks on their back legs. Sorry? Okay.
What bothers you the most about this game as an entomologist?
The Mister Mosquito, because we got to represent for the ladies. Who is murdering everyone? Who has murdered more humans than any? It's the lady mosquitoes. And the forelegs, that bothers me. I know, it is just called mosquito in Japan. I don't know if they have any gendered pronouns that they refer to them by in the gameplay. Nice. Ooh. You should send me that. Oh, great. We should have that. Awesome. Anybody else? Oh, gosh. Y'all are going to have to fight it out. Okay. So how bad is global warming going to be so far as mosquito-borne disease? Well, first of all, so bad. But also there's a point at which it gets too hot for mosquitoes to function. And that varies by, this is actually my one publication, actually, is on a critical thermal maximum of mosquito species. So in an Aedes albopictus mosquito, it's about like 99 degrees Fahrenheit, and they can survive higher temperatures by finding microclimates, so hiding under leaves or by a respiring plant, because it's cooling the air around it as it does that. But so far as just a mosquito in open air, even in a humid environment, it can get too hot for them. So theoretically, as temperatures rise, mosquitoes are going to be able to be in more places, but we might start seeing that summer low period, just like we have in New Orleans, be more common across more temperate zones. And in the developed world, that's a crappy term, but basically anywhere that has air conditioning and screens is not going to have the same level of mosquito-borne disease rise as other places. Because it's the open windows, especially at night, it's having to work outside for long periods of time that are really driving those disease factors.
Oh, shit, my time.
Okay.
Hey, sorry. So I grew up constantly being told that mosquitoes have a preference for blood type. Is this true?
You will find so many studies saying yes, and you will find a bunch of studies saying no. There are a lot of various things that attract mosquitoes to specific people, and there's a lot of correlation, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what's doing it. But I will say the best pesticide, or the best way to avoid getting bites on yourself, is to stand next to me. They love me. I don't know what it is, but they love me. Mm-hmm.
So, do you still hate mosquitoes, or has
Yes.
a lot of is there a greater appreciation or respect for them, or do you just hate them unilaterally?
I mean, they're neat. Again, from a disease ecology perspective, it's very interesting. I don't study mosquitoes as much now because, other than my heartworm project, because I'm mostly doing ticks and biting midges. And if you're unfamiliar with biting midges, they are 1 millimeter long, and I have to ID them and dissect them and mount them on slides. And I hate them so much. So my biggest appreciation for mosquitoes that I have gotten is from working with other organisms that are even more irritating than mosquitoes. Hmm?
So in the game, it's just one mosquito that's going around and constantly biting the family and drinking their blood.
Yes.
Do normal mosquitoes, like a single mosquito, eat that much, soak up that much blood as much as like that single one has?
Not that much. I don't know how many tanks in Mister Mosquito would be required for a full blood meal in order to produce eggs. So they will feed until they're full. Basically, they really only need one blood feeding in order to produce eggs. But they will bite more than once. And some species will bite more frequently than others. Some will like have one meal and then be done. Some species will take multiple meals. And the species that take multiple meals are the ones that are more likely to be spreading disease because they have one person's blood and then they go and they feed on someone else and then they can kind of transfer that. And that's tempered a little bit. So generally, mosquito-borne disease has to go through like a biological process inside the mosquito. So really the disease is happening after multiple generations of eggs, or not generations, but after multiple clutches of eggs have been laid. So a single mosquito will feed multiple times, but they don't necessarily have to feed multiple times in between each egg laying. Sorry, that was probably more detail than was initially. But fun fact about the eggs, so you can actually do parity dissections. That's one of the things that we got in trouble for doing because it costs money. And it sounds dumb. This is our version of the shrimp on the treadmill that a bunch of people on Fox News were complaining about. So the St. Tammany Parish Mosquito Abatement District version is that we do dissections of mosquito ovaries just to waste taxpayer money. But the reason that we do that is actually to see how many times they've given birth. When we're spraying a bunch of pesticide, we go behind the spray and we catch the mosquitoes that are left in the air. And we want to know, are our sprays working? Are we catching a bunch of young mosquitoes that have never fed before, that have never given birth before? Or are our sprays not working and we're catching a bunch of mosquitoes that are on like their 4th, 5th egg laying? So that is just one kind of easy way to see, are we catching, or are we killing these mosquitoes effectively? Yes? Sometimes. Parity dissections are really hard. It's a fairly new project that we're doing. It was something that they latched onto. We really have one person who gets paid like $16 an hour doing it. So it takes a little bit of time. So it's kind of a mix, but it's something that we definitely want to keep checking in on. Along with other stuff. So another way to do that would just be to catch the mosquitoes and do PCR testing for knockout resistance as well. So there are different ways to do it. But it's important that you check that what you're trying is actually working. And that's the thing that they have a problem with, apparently. Yeah.
Is the goal to eradicate mosquitoes in that area, or just reduce specific populations of them that are potentially carrying diseases? Or like what is the goal is to have them less irritating overall by reducing quantity?
Yeah, so the thing that pays our bills is that mosquitoes are irritating and people don't want them around. So we are fighting multiple battles. We're fighting like the Mansonia mosquitoes that are coming up out of our waterways. Really cool mosquitoes. I would love to talk about them for 6 hours. I don't have that time. But they are really voracious biters and they come out in these massive swarms. So we're trying to fight those. But the Mansonia mosquitoes aren't really the ones that are spreading disease all that much. That's like our Culex mosquitoes and our Aedes mosquitoes. So on one hand, we're trying to fight the ones that are a nuisance. On the other hand, we are specifically trapping and testing to see which ones are carrying disease so that we can focus our efforts on those as well. So eradication is not possible. We tried our hardest up through about the 1950s, just spraying everything with the worst poisons ever and filling in just every swamp. And we destroyed the environments, and guess what? We still have the mosquitoes. So it's really about just doing our best. All right, that is kind of my time. Thank you all so much for showing up. You all had so many mosquito questions. Sweet, thank you. This is my first MAGFest, and both of my audiences have been absolutely amazing. But this is my last talk, so from here on out, it's all partying. Hooray.